Let's get it.
Got one that can see.
Oh, Bigfoot, you're a Kentucky mystery, slipping through the hollers with some high-tech wizardry. Ha ha! Welcome back to Visual Disturbance. And speaking of wizardry, watch out for Sasquatch. But yeah, everybody, welcome back to Visual Disturbance channel. We are experiencing rain in the Appalachian, the eastern parts of the state, and all that good stuff in the bluegrass state. Welcome back to Visual Disturbance. And tonight we're going to be talking about Sasquatch living amongst us in the shadows, aka Bigfoot. How did y'all like that little Kentucky slang there, a little jingling there at the beginning of the program? But I want to thank everybody for being here and being part of this broadcast. Welcome everybody, all walks of life, cryptid people that love cryptid creatures, Bigfoot enthusiasts, and everybody that goes out there and tries to hunt this thing out. I'll pray for you. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Bigfoot, and thank you all for being right with me tonight here. It's been 2 weeks. I cannot believe it's been 2 weeks since we've been live. 2 weeks on the Visual Disturbance channel. So we are so stoked to be here tonight and so thankful here to be presenting this material. So it's Special Guest Tuesday. Special Guest Tuesday. And guess what? I'm going to make this a thing where it's periodically a thing. I don't know how long we can do it. I don't know when we're going to do it. But this is the very first one. Everything's reformatted. We're going to have a Special Guest Tuesday ever so often here on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Visual Disturbance channel. So I hope everybody will come back the next time you join us. But this is the first one out of the gate. But before we get into the program of Sasquatch living amongst us in the shadows, I got a lot of announcements and stuff that really you just can't make this stuff up. And I'm just so glad and so thankful to be part of. So check this out. We have the Conspiracy Con website. It's going to be August the 22nd, 23rd, Cave City, Kentucky. Get your tickets now. We have still got a bunch of tickets to sell. We'd love to have you come with us and join us there at the Conspiracy Con. There's going to be a bunch of guests. I'm going to be there. There's going to be a lot more people on there added as we go along, and we have a lot more Bigfoot people coming along the way to join us for that event. So join us there for a Friday and Saturday on August the 22nd, 23rd, Cave City, Kentucky. And then also get up with us on Facebook. Let us know what we're doing. Let us know how you think everything's going on with the Conspiracy Con, and just give us a like. Follow us on Facebook, Conspiracy Con. We really would appreciate it, and it would be a blessing if you go check that out. The links are in the description. We would really appreciate you all if y'all would join us for the Conspiracy Con on August. But check all those links out in the description box. And my goodness, man, what an honor it is tonight. This is going to be one of those shows that I've been kind of waiting around to do because, I just didn't have the right person to do another show with. I mean, it's just been a long time, and I think the last time I had a special guest on might have been 1.5 years, 2 years ago, so this is a big deal to me. I'm pretty stoked about it and pretty honored, pretty honored. So I'm gonna throw this out here real quick since I got permission. So there was a man a couple years ago that was honored and humbled to be part of a broadcast with another platform. And that was in 2023, and the gentleman has since passed, and the late Scott Carpenter. and we had a conversation during that before the program, and just kind of throwing out ideas and whatnot. So he has a son. So guess who's going to be showing up on Visual Disturbance tonight? Without further ado, T-Carp, a.k.a. Travis Carpenter. Welcome to Visual Disturbance channel, Travis.
What's going on, Brian? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Cannot complain. Super thrilled for you to be here today, and it's an honor, man. It's an honor that you're here with us tonight. We're going to be talking about Sasquatch. So super thrilled for you to be here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let everybody know who you are, man. Let everybody know what's going on, and tell them about yourself there, Brother Travis.
Well, with an intro like that, it's really hard to top that. But man, I'm the one who's honored to be on with you guys. You guys do such a great job checking out all the platforms you do. It's amazing. A little bit about myself. Everybody, usually a lot of people in the cryptid community have heard of my dad. My dad is Scott Carpenter. Wrote several books, including the Sasquatch Awareness Project, The Truth Denied, and The Nephilim Among Us. Was on several TV shows, Finding Bigfoot, Survivor Man Bigfoot, and then I think another show, The Truth Is Out There. Helped write books with David Pilates, Missing 411, stuff like that. My dad left a legacy of Bigfoot and cryptid and stuff like that. And the cool thing about Dad is Dad really made it a big part of his faith. He did not shy away from his faith and what these creatures were in that. And we're going to get into that tonight. And I'm really excited to bring a few things to the table. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say and some things that we're going to talk about that maybe I even have never heard of.
That's right, man. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, and the Sasquatch topic. And I'll tell everybody, if you've never heard of me, if you're just now joining us here, if you're coming over from the Sasquatch community or whatnot, Visual Disturbance loves a good chatter, a good conversation with Nephilim, the Raphaim, the Gilbarim when it comes to the biblical narrative. So we're going to be really collaborating here and cross-referencing our data together here and see what we can fish and figure out here on the Sasquatch Project. So the Sasquatch Project plus this living amongst us in the shadows. So this is where I'm at, Travis. I'll ask your take on this phenomenon, right? So we have this, it's a mixed bag. You got people that are in these part of the woods in the western states in Oregon where they see sightings, they got missing people. You go into the Midwest, you go through in the mid part of the United States alone, you start finding missing 411 people with David Pilates, like you talked about a minute ago. You start seeing people going, there's abductions, there's all these different things, and then all of a sudden you'll see, Sasquatch, orbs, UFOs, whatever. And my question to you is, are we in a psyop? Is this some type of military concept psyop where people are playing us like fiddles, so to speak, and we don't even know which is up or which is down. We can't even go anywhere. We don't even know what's really going on. And I think these underground facilities, underground tunnels are telling a story. And we'll set the tone because the Native Americans knew it. The Native Americans knew not to go to these cave systems. They knew not to touch it. And here we are today touching it. We have military surveillance, military recon missions, and everything, all kinds of information stacked to the hilltops talking about tall creatures that the Native Americans once hunted, or the Native Americans told the stories of the tall people hunting the Native Americans. What's your take?
Man, trying to dip my toe into that, my take is people, when they first start the Sasquatch thing, it's like, oh, it's a big hairy ape, it's the keeper of the forest, it's a Gigantopithecus, all this stuff. They try to take a scientific mindset and a scientific approach, and well on them. That's absolutely where a person that's just starting out this really does start, and Dad started out that way, and so did I. But the problem is like you said, the orbs, all these things start showing up, and it gets to the point where you can't ignore them. Is it a psyop? Is it all this stuff? Because you got all these things going on, and all these things interconnecting. I definitely think it's spiritual. I think that these creatures are not the keepers of the forest. I think these creatures, I believe what my dad believed, which was I believe they are Nephilim descendants. And then when it comes to, does the government know about them? Absolutely, they do. Do what what reason are they here? What reason does the government have to leave them alone, not leave them alone? I don't know. I have only conjectures, only thoughts about that. When it comes to this cave system, man, I think who knows what's in these cave systems. One of the big ones that is right down the road from where I live it's called the Tuckaleechee Caverns. It was, again, Cherokees were there, and we'll get into that. They had they call it big council room, this big massive room, and it's wild. And then there's the Lost Sea. They've got water down there. They have no clue how far it goes. So there are just so many systems and tunnel systems and cave systems that run all up and down the Appalachian Mountains, which you're like me, you live here with me. So who knows? And the next thing is there's also a lot of Department of Defense stuff going on around where you and I live. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many things that tie into everything you just said. My take is on it, I don't know if it's a psyop, but I do think the government knows. And I think that they're playing the government more than the government playing them. Does that make sense?
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. There's evidence. If you go look this up, it's pretty interesting. There's evidence of FBI going back from, I think it was the 1976, if my memory serves me correct. I think it was 1976, and they're claiming Bigfoot. There's like a Bigfoot file somewhere, and then they're keeping it suppressed from the public because, well, they say it was going to cause panic and pandemonium in the streets, so to speak, and then protecting these, let's just say, these strategic areas. And then, if you follow visual disturbance for so long, if all those people out there that have, I've talked about ley lines, I've talked about star forts, I've talked about military applications, I've talked about the World War II, the CERN. There's colliders and particle accelerators that are all over the place. There's particle accelerators that all link up to Geneva, Switzerland. A lot of people go up to debate for that, and they get up into an argument mode. But then you'll have, like in your area, you have that Tennessee collider down that way. And then up my way, we're harboring UFOs and saying that we're getting rid of nerve gas from World War II, and they keep blowing up bombs about every other day and vibrating the foundations of the homes. No joke, that's a true fact. And it just makes you wonder if we're in some kind of brain delusion, some kind of delusional concept. I don't know. What do you think, Travis? Because
my thing is on this is when it all these creatures you're going to have hot spots, and you're going to have hot spots of all of these creatures, whether it's Nephilim, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's Dogman, any type of cryptid, any type of Nephilim mixture, chimera type of thing. You're going to have those hot spots around these CERN-esque type of things. So where I live here in East Tennessee, and if anyone's ever heard of the Manhattan Project was where they helped create the first atom bomb. Now, that's not the only thing that they're doing there. Now, at my job, I'm privy to a ton of people. Everybody needs the services that I provide. Rich people, poor people, all that stuff. And I get to, I was given the gift of gab, and I get to talk to some folks. And what they're doing at these government facilities is exactly, I dare say there's a show on Netflix. I won't say it, but we all know it talks about upside down places. But literally, that's probably what they do there. They try their best to rip a hole in the fabric of space and time. And that's one of the many projects they do over there, including disposing, quote unquote, of nuclear weapons and all that stuff. But definitely there's some things going on there that who knows what it is. It's extremely top secret. it's just kind of one of those things to, and people that are saying that they're ratcheting down these places. I've got several friends that left extremely high paying jobs because the government facility called them to come work for them. So it's not ratcheting down. Let's say that.
Wow. So so talking about conspiracies, okay. So have you checked out what happened in Texas? So this is totally not even close to us at all in the Appalachian Mountains. Did you see what happened in Texas there less than a year ago? They erected a large statue. It's the Hanuman statue. Okay, so
Hold on, I'm gonna look this up.
90 foot. I think it was 90 foot tall. So you have this Hanuman statue. I would have put it and incorporated into this program, but I don't even. There's so many occultic things are tied back to this entity, and a lot of let's just say certain individuals like to go around with these statues in their hands and arms, and tucking them away in their let's just say purse, so to speak. And so I wanted to hear your take on this. So there's a lot of speculation, a lot of drama going on when it comes to X, right? You got a lot of information. You can find anything that's not censored. I mean, there's a truck ton of information. There's a lot of good information that you can find that is good for consumption. But I will warn anybody out there, there's a lot that's not good for consumption. All right, it's just free reign into that realm. So I came, when you think about this, you listen to a lot of. There's like I think it's a Astros. I don't know if it's a. I'm trying to remember what the title of this individual. He's from South Korea? And there was a gentleman, I think that's where he's from. And forgive me if I'm wrong on that. There was a gentleman, either an astrophysicist or something to that level. He said that, I think a high percent of humans have been mixed with monkeys. So we're talking about chimeras, right? So
Right.
then you have that 3% that's not. So let's just say, I'm not sold on the idea. We're going to talk about it here in a little bit when it comes to manipulation from the fallen angels. But when you think about this Hanuman character, and when you think about what he was and what they arranged him to be, it's supposed to be tied back to the Anunnaki, right? That they took a man, he was formed and changed into like a chimera, the one that ruled the one to rule the forest. I mean, it's just straight and simple. So you think to yourself, is it the sons of God kind of narrative over again? They took wives as they chose. They're doing the same spin on it now with this Hanuman character. And this Hanuman character's, there's stories of women disappearing in the woods, and voila, there's a whole offspring of creatures that look hairy, etc. Could this be an incursion of Bigfoot? This could be the daddy, that at the forefront, the origins of this one incursion. Could we be dealing with that now to this day? And that's why they resurrected this Texan 90-foot tall statue. What's your take, man? Because it's gonna blow your mind.
Man, I haven't seen the statue, but it sure sounds like it. So what I want to say is, when it comes to Bigfoot and Nephilim and the Hanuman and whatnot and these chimeras, so you have to go back to the book of you have to go back to the Bible first and foremost. That's the biggest thing. And we base, at least the Carpenters, we base everything off of this. Off of Scripture. And then we can take things like the book of Enoch, and we can say, and we can reference it. So it's kind of like a Strong's Concordance or something like that. I don't believe the book of Enoch is Scripture. I don't believe it's canonized, but we can use it for historical context. Now, the book of Enoch talks about something that Genesis 6 talks about, when it talks about the sons of God coming down and for little ears taking wives and making babies. And that really disturbs a lot of people. But the book of Enoch goes into greater detail, and it talks about the fact that the spirits of this mixture between these fallen angels, the sons of God, and the daughters of men, these souls are not a God-prescribed soul. That's an issue. So when that creature dies, it neither goes to heaven or hell. That's a problem. So it is doomed to wander the earth. For those that say that's crazy, that's what we call demons. Demons are these Nephilim spirits. And for those that say you're not biblical, I'll give you the example of the legion of demons in the man. They talk to Jesus, and Jesus talks to them. They know who Jesus is. They know they have a time, and they ask Jesus to go into the pigs. They don't want to be just out. They want to go into something. So, and the weird part is Jesus grants this, by the way, and says, okay, he sends them into the pigs, and the pigs run off. I think that story is in all the Gospels, or most of them, to show you also that demons do exist. They know who Jesus is, and I mean, it's pretty wild. But I say all that to say, I believe that these Bigfoot and these chimeras, they are created beings, and they're a shell for these Nephilim spirits to inhabit. I believe that, and I believe that they're also a mixture. They could be like a human mixture versus a Nephilim mixture. I don't know like I said, I don't know the exact mixtures, because I think some are more human, some are more Nephilim. But I think a lot of those and a lot of these chimeric creatures are that shell for Nephilim spirits, or as we call, demons.
I agree 100%. Here's the verse that you was referring to when you talk about Genesis 6, verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men of old, which were of old, men of renown. So if you look at that and you think about what you just said, you're talking about the book of Enoch, and you're talking about the embodied spirits. A lot of people don't really understand that. The days of Noah was a little wild, right? I think we were in the 2.0 version of the days of Noah, and I think there's a lot of things that's went on this earth that we do not even know and can't even process or even ponder on. We can't even hardly get to the grocery store without putting our GPS on. Okay, so we can't even function on that reality when we are let's just say our peripherals off, literally. And yeah. Go ahead.
If you're fine. No, if we knew, if we really knew everything, it would blow our mind. I believe that we are, even us in this conspiracy realm, we are so, we know nothing. We know 1% of 1% of 1%. We know nothing of what is actually out there. So when you're like, is this a psyop? What do you think? Buddy, who knows? Honestly, who knows? I think that disclosure is closer than we think, but I think the people that have the keys to the disclosure, they don't even have a clue. So I think the powers that be that we see on the news every night, they have no clue either.
Yeah, when you look at it and you really ponder on the idea, because a lot of people don't even teach this, what we're talking about tonight, when we're talking about the Book of Enoch. They throw it out. They say, "Hey, you can't reference that. It's not canon, so you can't look at it. It's not good. It's a little skittish, man. So well, if you go to, let's just say, churches around my area, they're like, hey, that's not good. You can't be doing the devil's work. But then they teach a certain, let's just say, doctrine that the Genesis 6 narrative, there was no giants. I've been in some, let's just say, wild places where they say this doesn't even exist. It's just the devil. It's just a Jesus. And there's nothing. I've heard even a pastor say there's no such thing as angels. So, I mean, pick your poison, so you're taking away from God's word. It's crazy.
They are. There's this, and unfortunately, I never want to dog on the church, and I'm not going to. But there's a theory out there, and it's, we all know what it's called. It's called the Seth out theory, and to be honest with you, it's absolutely, in my humble opinion, it's absolutely a doctrine of demons. And the reason why is, if I'm a demon, I want you to think I don't exist. And that's exactly what that doctrine teaches. It doesn't teach anything of that. And what happens is it makes the Bible not make sense. It makes God seem like a very evil genocidal. He wants to just kill all these certain people. Well, if you know that these people are Nephilim, and that they are, they're mostly demons, they're chimera, they're mixing DNA, creating these monstrosities. By the way, these monstrosities that are stylized by the Greeks and Romans, in the Odyssey, that you see. Now, that's one of the most famous versions of what I believe happened before the flood. I don't believe a blind poet Homer just came up with all of them. That that to me is just one of the many things that we have seen that the major organized church has been swayed left and right, if that makes sense.
I'm with you 100%. And I think a lot of it is strategically done. I think a lot of it's to gaslight the public and make everybody think it's just folklore, mysterious, mythical
Yep.
creatures. But in reality, I don't really think, let's just face the facts. I said PSYOP. I was really kind of meaning more toward the FBI narrative and then all these government programs, because there's undeniably information out there that people are seeing something. And I think it has to do
Absolutely.
with bloodline, the Native American culture. I think they have some type of ancestral DNA like tie. And I think they go out and you hear the story as a kid, fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. And I think that resonates. I think there's something so profound about that and compelling that you can these entities can smell.
Yes.
Right? And then you have the sulfur smell, you have the accounts where people are on horseback and there's a certain like, let's just say for example, a certain height where they can't, there's like this, they're in limbo, they can't hunt you. It's crazy. I've researched a lot about this. And it makes you wonder because, you back in the day, that's all we had was horses. And when you think about people traveling, you never really heard anybody really, you heard people traveling at night, but it was certain circuits that had already been pretty much well established. But they wouldn't go off in the course of the natural forest because they knew that there was either a folklore of a six-fingered an entity or a hairy man,
Yes.
a red-headed man, or something that goes bump in the night and say, "Hey, boogie boogie," you know what I'm saying? I smell your blood, baby, and then come in. It's crazy, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just
And,
wild.
and getting back to that, talking about the blood, there's a reason why what the first commandment, by the way, that God told Noah not to do as soon as he got off the ark, and that was eat an animal with its blood still in it. Don't drink blood. There's something about that, my friend. And it's funny how all these things like I smell the blood and all these creatures, and we have these. I think all these myths that excuse me, when I say myths and fairy tales, I don't think that they are just made up. I think they have a root in something real and actual. And I think that the things that we tell our kids is not real, and the things that go bump in the night, don't worry about that. I'm not saying worry about it because we're all under the blood of the Lamb, the one true King, Jesus Christ. But I'm saying that, when it comes to a lot of the stuff, it's real.
I'm sitting there listening to you. I mean, and I would never say if somebody had an account and said, "Hey, I seen a little green man. He was climbing up the back of my deck and trying to take right off of my three-wheeler, my kid's three-wheeler." I mean, those type of things. The Hopkinsville account in Kentucky, the little green men festival they have. There's so many different things. The Mothman Festival in Virginia. There's so many different cryptid creatures. You got dogmen. There's dogmen here in my
Yep.
state. So here's the question for you. So I have this. It's just kind of a theory. So you've probably watched Skinwalker Ranch, maybe a few Skinwalker Ranch episodes, maybe a few, 2 or 3,
Right.
What have you. And the thing that comes to my mind, Travis, is there some type of interdimensional portal-like system in the forest? Okay, so
Absolutely.
I know we talked about this off air last night, and I even made a little jingle song at the beginning, a little ancient tech, and basically, does Sasquatch, does he have some type of capability? Are we looking at some type of antediluvian knowledge? But here's the thing, here's what gets me. So I've heard many accounts that people be in cars, they'll see them, but here's the wild story. So you have elk, deer get hit by cars all the time. People, they're just like a deer in headlights. Bam, they just pop off the hood. But Bigfoot have been known to do the same thing. So if Bigfoot had been known to do the same thing, Here's my question. If they don't see you, even if you're going 35 miles an hour, that means they're popping in and out, right? Because they're interdimensionally breaking down. They're biological, they're spiritual, but there's confusion. There's a convergence of that time, and they're not, you can see them, but they can't see you. You know why my theory is? So hear me out. Have you ever heard of the rock, the rock throwing they do? They throw rocks.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
You're thinking hearing, sonar. They're wanting to hear. And they're like watching somebody run, or they can hear it, and then they see the vibration, harmonics. And then the Sasquatch like, oh, boom, take off, right? Because they'll be like kind of staring and reconning the area, and then all of a sudden they pick up not the scent, but the sound. There's my theory, because they're throwing rocks and pebbles. It's not nothing to do with, like a let's just say a take on like, hey, we're just here to threaten you. I can throw little BBs at you. That's not the case at all. And they're not really even scared. I don't even think they're really scared of guns, man. If they're not scared of cars, they're just like, whatever. I'm here to kind of be a predator. I'm here to like I'm going to hunt my bait. I'm going to put my little bait traps everywhere, throw little rocks, and I'm going to see somebody run, then I'm going to grab them. And there's so many mysteries with this, man. It's just it's so telling where we're at, especially in 2025. Bigfoot's a big topic again. A lot of people are ramping up with the Bigfoot narrative, and it's wild, man. The Nephilim never left, man. There's been incursions of them. There's hairy ones, there's skinny ones, there's pale white ones. There's all kinds. But this Sasquatch narrative and Bigfoot narrative is really, really compelling to me. And I think your dad was at the forefront of the DNA strands and all the hair follicles. I think your dad was like rocking it, man. Portals. He was checking out everything, data after data, hours and hours of GoPro footage. The legend in the forest. Yeah.
Man, I sure appreciate that. When it comes to the first thing you said, when it comes to the portals, I definitely think it depends on how much Nephilim DNA they have, or how much angelic DNA they have. Because I believe that there's some that look very, very human, that some that don't. I think some of them do have the ability to pop in and out of portals, and some of them honestly don't. I think there's a lot of genetic diversity between them. So that's my personal thought. I wanted to show you this. David Pilates actually has the footage of this, the video of it. He purchased that from Dad. But if you get this the Sasquatch awareness book, you can actually have a picture of it. And I'll try to hold that up. That is a picture of a portal, and I don't know if you can see that or not, bro, but that bad boy, you see that white entity in there?
Mm-hmm.
That is something walking through that portal. Isn't that wild, man?
That is
and
wild.
you can see like that bubble look. I know it's probably hard to see on that sheen, but man, it is. Here's another picture of that. And dude, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. And so when it comes to portals, yeah, I believe that Bigfoot can run and walk through portals. It just depends on how much DNA they have, how much angelic DNA they have.
Wow.
And when it comes, by the way, I want to really nail this DNA stuff. My dad was a part of the Melba Ketchum DNA study. For terms, let's see, for our audience, let's get the actual study form real quick and see if I can do that. The official name of the study, by the way, is the Novel North American Hominins Next Generation Sequencing of 3 Whole Genomes and Associated Studies, but we'll call it the Sasquatch Genome Project. But with the Sasquatch Genome Project, these bad boys, and it was ignored by the scientific community, even though it was published in a scientific journal, that the mitochondrial DNA, by the way, is of human. So anybody that just does basic DNA analysis on this is going to say it's a human. It's contaminated. But when you do the nuclear analysis of it, the inside the nucleus of the cell, that's, by the way, where you find the father's DNA. The father's DNA is unknown. They had enough of this DNA to run 3 full genomes. That's a ton. That's a lot. That is a lot. And they ran it through this big this big database called GenBank. It's basically the dictionary of all DNA. If you get some DNA, let's say you're got a tree frog out here in the Appalachians, you get its DNA, you run it through GenBank, and it's undiscovered or unknown. Guess what? You found a new species. You can call it, visual disturbance frog. But literally, that's what happened with them. The father's DNA is unknown, and we're talking. And by the way, for those that say, oh, it was, again, contaminated with human DNA. So you're talking about labs, Chapel Hill, Texas, Arlington, labs that have put people on death row, have a major contamination issue. Then we need to, the DNA evidence for all these people on death row needs to be absolutely thrown out. I'm telling you, this was a rock solid study. My dad would, again, just to harp on it, Dad was on the forefront of it, and the DNA proved what we were talking about with the Nephilim, that you have the mother, the mitochondrial DNA, as human, and the father, the nuclear DNA, as unknown. But we, you and I, and hopefully a lot of the audience knows who the fathers were.
Wow. It makes you wonder who the father was, what the particular angel, the particular daddy, So
Yep.
When I think about this, and just hear me out, when I think about this and what you just brought to the table here with a DNA strand, what if these daddies, let's just have fun here, and they have they have the ability to, let's just say, manipulate time and space, like they're claiming. We got to watch what we say here. But what they're claiming here just in the last few weeks about manipulation, time, and space, which I don't even know how they can prove it, but hopefully they'll prove it one day and give me the receipts so I can get on the bandwagon with them. But right now, I'm way back reserved on the topic. Let's just have fun here. Let's say, hypothetical, let's say this entity has jumped too many times. For example, let's say that because I know, if I remember correctly with your dad online, I was online live streaming a show with him, and he told me that there was an account where a kid got, I think, kidnapped by these entities, by these Bigfoots, and they found him like for years. He lived with them, and he started growing hair like them. So just think about what I'm saying. Because it's just I'm just speculating here. Could they be jumping and it's altering, like shifting their hair follicles, their blood DNA, and altering and changing it based off just their environment? So their environment, like you showed me with your dad's photo there with the portal and the circle there formation. The Indians, I've read many Native American Cherokees talk about these white circles popping up. They use sage and find these empty, it was like just a vapor trail of portals. And they would find, because they was so aggravated about people, these tall Indians, that's what they claimed, would take their women and children. And they would go to the location where they found them and wait. And, have, spears, javelins, whatever, arrowheads. We're sitting there getting ready to go to war, right? And they would hunt these things down. There's accounts where these things are just teleportation. Boom, there they would be. And they would hunt them down and have this longitude, latitude all mapped out in the topography there. So my take is, well, here's my point. Could the Bigfoot interdimensionally travel? And anybody that interdimensionally travels with it, which in cases I would say there's portals all over the place because NASA says they're studying portals on the face of the earth, whatever. Could they be changing, altering DNA and not even knowing it? And could we be dealing with a species that is just genetically changing and they're evolving into these creatures, but could they be originally human in the beginning, like long ago? But then you have the sons of God teaching these things, teaching these ways, manipulation, hybridization creatures, which I said a chimera. So could it be a little mixed bag of everything? There's my question.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag of everything, man. I know. Here's what we do know. God has put in our DNA on switches and off switches. One of the off switches he gave me was no hair. I really wish he would turn that switch back on because I don't like this bald thing. But like what I'm saying is there is a genetic marker in all of us that we can grow hair, like grow hair. There's genetic markers that tell us when to stop growing, all that stuff. And that's just in our genetic code and in our genetic, information. You're an information guy. You love information. So it's just in our code. But what if you did know? Like, what if your environments were doing that? What if going through these portals did mess with those on-off switches? That I think it's a mixed bag of it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have all the answers on this. I really don't. I have a few answers, I believe, but I don't rightly know. But I do think that maybe him being out there in the wilderness, I think that his body, flipped that switch. We see here's a good example. My wife is Mediterranean. Well, Mediterranean, she has a form of sickle cell that she can't get malaria. Now, granted, yes, is it an issue there? Because she's iron deficient, maybe. But it's kind of like it just depends on where that person or where that region is, and that's just little things that our DNA has changed with the human race, the human species. I mean, we see different types of we see Asians, we see African Americans, all that, and it's again adapting to the surroundings, but it's information that's already available in our DNA. It's just on-off switches. I think the fact that and Bigfoot may just have that on-off switch. When I think Chimera, I don't think there's an on-off switch for me to grow wings or for me to have the hearing of a bat or anything like that. Does that make sense?
Oh, believe me, if I wake up tomorrow and I have wings growing, I tell you right now, man, if you watch anything about an FOJC or visual disturbance, man, I'm gonna go as far as I can to the ice wall and go over to the continent that Admiral Byrd was talking about. So yeah, they'll be.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started.
That's for another video. That's for another video.
Another...
But yeah, if I had wings, man, that's what they have video. There's a Mothman flying around, but hey, is that visual disturbance? Yeah.
That's
so anyways, yeah. But anyway, that's my little humorous plug in. But yeah,
I heard that.
But yeah, when you think about technology, right, with the quantum entanglement, quantum field, and the electromagnetic activity, that's what I'm talking about. I'm wondering if it's just literally like the cell phones, all these different devices, everything that's just on a cellular level, what we've been inundated with all these electromagnetic fields. It's altering, changing, doing things to ourselves, and we don't even know anything about it. But the guys in the National Forest, these military, let's just say protected bases, they know darn well what's going on. So I think, I've heard anywhere from in Colorado back in 2021, if I remember correctly, really close. I'm trying to remember what area it was. I think it was March of 2021 in Colorado. There was a story where there's these large bears coming and taking people. No joke, Travis. Large bears coming and taking people, and then here's the kicker. You go in, the military, basically put caution tape up and everything and said it was a crime scene, had military presence there and everything in 2021, and then there was some type of the large bears, hey boo-boo, Yogi picking a basket, Yogi getting rowdy. But here's the kicker. I heard some of the account that the people, they found clothes, like shoes and clothes in the tunnel systems, but they was folded. Like all night, and there's like all these people, and every piece of clothing that was missing, there's the amount of bodies that was missing. But here's the clothing, here's the shoes, all nice and tucked away like it was at the JCPenney store, and then you have military presence there, and this is several years. This is 4 years ago now, and giant bears taking people from just everybody disappearing. Right? I mean, come on, where are we at, Travis? And see, it's all military controlled every time you turn around. And I'll give it back to you.
No, I think it's just funny how they do that. That's like, oh, it's like you said, it's bears or talking bears or hey, it's some devil worshiping people that go up and they're eating people or whatnot. That's what they'll blame it on. They'll blame it on a cult or whatnot. I think these things get out of line. I think there's rules, by the way. I think there's rules to this realm that the reason why we don't 100% know about Bigfoot, or it's not like disclosed yet, or they won't show themselves. And what's frustrating is we don't know the rules. They do, we don't. And I think when they get out of bounds, and I think they get outside of the rules, I think the government steps in and fixes a problem. And I think there are some people, I think there's definitely some special forces that are called in to, hey, we've got some rogue Bigfoots that are getting out of line, take care of them. And my crazy thought is the Patterson film. I believe that is actually what happened. Is those guys were privy to a Bigfoot hunt, and they got him. Like that's what I believe they were privy to, and they got her, by the way, and got all that. That's just my opinion on that.
Wow. Me and you speaking the same language when it comes to this, and it just. So there's something too. So you spoke of a special task force, right? So you see all these things in the news and everything going on in our world, and especially the last 4 or 5 years. We're not going to get into the deep dive of that, but I remember very specifically with Maui, with different locations in Peru, with the face peeler alien-like creatures coming out of the mines and terrorizing the folk. So here's my take. So I remember hearing about a specific, let's just say, a incident, and I can't find much on this. It's not really documented much well. I only seen something about it in some chatter about a year ago. And have you ever heard of the Dogman, right? We could talk about the Dogman, but it's not Sasquatch, but it's cryptid creatures. I mean, come on now. You can't talk about Bigfoot with a lot of little
Oh man, have I got a Dogman story?
Yeah, so Dogman, so they're saying that there was this is a count in Kentucky, but I can't find anything about it. Supposedly there was this platoon sent to a cave system, okay? Somewhere out, I think it was in the eastern part of Kentucky. Imagine that, where there's not much, let's just say, not much being developed, okay? Eastern folk, or, it's a lot of farmland and whatnot, but there's cave systems all over Kentucky. And the account of the story was that there was military presence, there was people called in, there was these werewolf-like beings, there was these men turned into werewolves, and there was cave writings all over the wall with, looks like werewolf, something out of the Underworld movie from Hollywood narrative. It had lichen-looking character symbolism. There's all kinds of ancient writing hieroglyphics on the wall. And no joke, this is what's so weird about it. It was 2019. Well, all these men, these platoons, it was like something off of a video game getting slaughtered, man. Well, all of a sudden, one of the guys, they don't know what to do. They're calling for help, and there's nothing coming. But all of a sudden, this special helicopter rolls up, and this special platoon of people looking like somebody off Halo with these special suits and plasma rifles, no joke, and they literally call themselves the Phantoms. And they come in, and they're a special task force. Tell me if I don't know if this is legit or not, but I remember hearing
I've never heard of it, but I never heard of it, but doesn't. That sounds absolute. To some people, this sounds crazy, but it's probably absolutely legit.
Well, what's so bad about it? So here comes the Phantom crew, right? This Sentinel group, and they come in, they start taking names, man, taking every werewolf creature, blasting away. They said there was ligaments arms, everything coming off, right? And literally men out of the Phantom group even died. And they had plasma rifles. Come on, where's plasma? Where you get you got your local you got your local gun store with plasma rifles? Yeah. No, you don't. Maybe in the Vatican. Oh, that's a pro.
Yeah,
but
we're not going down to Bill's Outpost to get the plasma rifle.
Royal King. Okay, but anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the thing. So this Phantom group survived it, and they just took off in the helicopter. And then this one account was the soldier that was left in just dismay. He didn't even know where he didn't know what happened. And this guy, so this is a special task force. Hit me up in the description box if you ever heard any of this, anybody out there for, just for future reference. I want to hear some more information if you have on it. There's a special task force. This is a 2019 event, a Phantom Sentinel group that comes in and hunts cryptid creatures. I don't know if it's real. It sounds too far-fetched. It sounds like something off of that, what's that, Contour? Was it Contour video game back in the day, if I'm not mistaken? Is that how you say it now, in Nintendo days?
I never played the Contour stuff. That's terrible.
But that's what
I used to love the Underworld stuff. I used to love all that when I was growing up.
Crazy stuff.
But yeah.
Man.
But absolutely. It does it sound far-fetched? Maybe, but at the same time, I still think that the government knows they have a way of cleaning up. They have a cleanup crew, and they take care of things that if they get way too out of line. That's just my opinion on it. And that's that. Like, that's just my opinion on it. So that doesn't just sound super crazy. I do think that, I do think that even smaller government entities at least know to keep their mouth shut. So, I live very close to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and I live right next to Cades Cove, which is the most visited, national park in the United States. If the word got out that there's a group of Bigfoot that are living around there, and they may or may not have taken people in the past, and people go missing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I don't think that would be a great PR narrative. So I think that a lot of the times it is thrown off on bears, or it's thrown off on, oh, they got lost or whatnot. There's actually a really wild story. So this dude goes up, and he's a supposedly experienced hiker, and he goes up, and he's like a paramedic, and apparently he has like IV fluids and IV stuff with him in his backpack. By the way, I don't know anybody that carries needles and stuff like that to start their own IV. But anyway, like, he goes up there, and he's getting like deathly exhausted and tired, tries to start an IV, misses, blows his vein out, almost bleeds out, lays in a creek for 3 days. He talks about being picked up and moved to a campsite, and then he wakes up like 3 days later, and then basically walks out of the woods here in Appalachia. Tell me that's not the craziest thing you've ever heard.
Well, believe it or not, when we was talking about during off air last night, have you ever watched the series Lost? They did the exact same thing in the TV series Lost, man. They you remember?
I haven't, yeah.
They would do the same thing. They drag them off onto the island, and all of a sudden they was disoriented, didn't even know where they was at. They lost time, didn't know where they was at. I mean, it's dude. Dude, it's crazy, man. This story, man, it keeps getting deeper and deeper, this broadcast. So yeah, man.
Dude, yeah, we can go way down this rabbit hole, and the lost time and stuff like that. Oh, I wanted to hit you up with time manipulation and all that. I'm going to take a hard line stance on this and say that is absolutely BS. There's no way that they can manipulate time. And here's the reason why. Because what did I tell you at the beginning of the broadcast? We base everything off of this. So if they could manipulate time, what's the first thing that they would do? They would go back, and they wouldn't kill Jesus. They would not crucify him. What does the word say? If the enemy had known what he was doing, he would not have done it. So that's kind of my thing, is if they can control time, and they do that, and they can go in and out of it, that's what the first thing they would do. They would take away the blood of the Lamb that washed away and covers my sins and your sins, my brother. But they can't. And they'll tell you they can, they'll lie to you. They cannot do that.
Amen to that. Amen to that. But speaking of that, we lost time, blood signatures. I really do think it goes back. Let me ask you a question. I know the answer, but anybody in your family, grandparents, father, right, uncles, aunts, immediate family, did they serve in the Navy? Did they serve in the military? Did they serve in the Air Force? I mean, come on, name it.
Oh, brother. Dad served in the Air Force. So Dad served in the Air Force in the 80s, and was actually privy. He was communications. So he had top secret clearance. My mother had top secret clearance as well. They were stationed in Germany, and Dad was privy to conversations. So the reason being is, like, let's say on this broadcast tonight, there would be a person behind the scenes making sure all the buttons are pushed correctly, and that person's you. But in that case, it would be Dad. Dad would be making sure that those communications that get from one place to another There's no wiretapping, and everything's good. Well, guess what? You got to listen into them. So Dad was privy to a ton of very top secret information. And he only told me a few things that he could tell, but those guys are sworn to secrecy and whatnot. So, but to answer your question, yes, Dad was immediately a part of the. He was an Air Force guy. My grandfather was an Army guy. My wife's grandfather was World War II, Vietnam, Korean veteran. Like, we're military family. But here's one thing that I want to tell you. When I wanted to go into the military, Dad forbid it. Maybe there's a reason why.
I know, from when I knew of your father, the time I met him, I can understand why he didn't want you to go. So, God bless him. That's all I'm saying. And thank God he made that decision, because that was awesome, right? Because they're family and everything, right? Everything. Think about it. It's a blessing, right? And so here's my point. Has your life been interesting? Look, I'm talking about because I have because I have a grandfather that served in the Navy, and it's been nothing but a mystery and a mystery and 15 other layers of mystery. And you can't get an archive on him. If you wanted to go and call the Pentagon or whatever type of firm, you couldn't find an organization to get the information. And I even got to host somebody. They wanted me to send a hair follicle to prove that I was the grandson. Now think about that for a minute. So rattle that one off in your head. So my life has been kind of interesting and kind of surreal, just in general, the last 5 or 6 years. But that's for another program. But just overall, there's a lot of mysteries, a lot of unsettling things that just make you think, okay, what's really going on? And, you know, we've studied and done many programs on the Montauk Project, different types of, let's just say, 3-letter agency projects, and different things that will just make your mind explode, because you can't process it. It doesn't even register, right? You're just a few years younger than me, but when, you know, you're thinking about the 80s, right? They programmed us so much with cartoons and Thundercats, you know, and G.I. Joe and everything else. And we just think that that's like a cartoonish, or just, you know, for folklore purposes. You know, hey, looks, you know, like I said earlier, Jack and the Beanstalk, right? And kids' books. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of the Englishman. So all these stories are telling a narrative to bend your mind and twist it. And then academia scrubs it out and just shrugs it to the side and starts spinning it. Because of the days of old, they was talking about these giants. They was talking about these giant creatures. And the Native American, the screen on the screen right now, a depiction to go into war with these entities. And it makes you wonder, because when you have, like, there was a claim out there, I think it was called, speaking of time loss and disorientation. So you're disoriented. I think there was a term that was coined by Jenny Randles. They call it a eerie stiffness during a paranormal event. So there's claims that UFO, you know, like UFO, Sasquatch, Mothman, these people just stiffen up, right? They're just like froze in fear. Is it something to do with the sense? Is it something to do with your cognitive ability? Do they have some type of signal that radiates through your brain waves like a dog whistle, and then turns your brain off, and then all of a sudden it's just free bait, right? Like they can just grab you and go. And you know, not to go too long here and lengthy, I want to give you the floor back. Did you know I have looked into some military documents, and I remember hearing a gentleman, I'm not going to mention his name on this podcast, but did you know there's this tech that the Army men supposedly have, where they can, I've heard different things, where they have cloaking technology, where they can cloak themselves and go behind this veil and just become completely invisible and go and like hunt and do everything, and you can't hear them, you can't smell them or anything. Is that something else we're dealing with? Do we have a secret space program? Because you hear about SpaceX, all these different space programs coming around. Do we have a secret space program that goes way back to the 1800s? Stephen Greer talks about it, 1821 if I'm not mistaken. And all these things are just getting shrubbed under the rug. Are we light years ahead, 200 years ahead of what we know now? And I would have to say yes, but what's your take? Because it's very compelling to me that we're way behind. And these devices that give us this ability, these are trinket toys. You know, these are little preschool toys compared to what we have. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, brother, absolutely. These are absolutely trinket toys. So, we look at things like these phones or AI or whatnot. That anything that the public has is 20 to 30 years old. Actually, by the way, I wanted to add something to you. I just got a text from my mom, and it was talking about, so my dad's next tour of duty, by the way, would have been at NORAD. So would have been a part of the mountain and whatnot. And one of the reasons why he got out is he didn't want to go. Now, why didn't he want to go? Because he knew what was there, if that makes sense. And it's pretty wild. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so anything that we see on television with technology and whatnot is 20 years old at least. And I believe that it is Nephilim technology as well. So I also believe that it is it's technology that you're not going to we just didn't come up with ourselves. I'm still pretty wild about this. I still think it's pretty wild how electricity works, or the fact that how Wi-Fi works or whatnot. So it's kind of everything that we see is just absolutely wild.
Well, I got something here for you to really think about and ponder on. So, get this, Travis. So, because you're a glasses guy, right? You're a glasses guy, and just think about this for a minute. Have you ever heard the term, I think it's called dicecine? Dicecine glasses, and I think it was in the Vietnam War. So they had these particular goggles on, right? At the beginning of the program, you talked about Stranger Things and all these different things and these applications. We're talking about, pop culture, all that stuff, right? But they had these dicecine glasses that showed this. It was a particular location, and they sent these soldiers with these dicecine glasses on, and they could see things. They started taking their machine guns, shooting. People got hurt, injured. They started seeing creatures flying in the sky, things walking on the face of the earth, and they were just in torment. And it's pure pandemonium. Panic, people getting shot. They didn't, and all of a sudden there was somebody that had enough sense to rip them off and start ripping them off all the other soldiers, and then everything was back to normal. I'm wondering if it was a moment, because it was a hot spot. These ancient ley lines was lit up. The Vietnam War was there. Let's just have fun here in the hypothetical. What if? Let's just say the Vietnam War, it did happen. Don't get me wrong. I know people that has post-traumatic stress disorder, and God bless them folks. But I'm talking about on an interdimensional level, and they had a scientific experiment going on, and some so wicked there was a gateway opened, just like the Kandahar giant in Afghanistan. They know when these things light up and come into our existence, and they was ready for it. Who comes up with this? These dicecine glasses, and knew exactly strategically to place everybody like a chessboard, like these little like little pieces here. Hey, let's play a video game here, guys. And then you're here, you earn your keep. You're a soldier, and then you start completely going berserk. And I really do think, man, those was terrible times. I know many people that went through so much heartache, and my heart goes out to them folks. But could you imagine that group of men with those dicecine concept and everything? Could you imagine? And it just blows my mind.
I think that what they would have seen was, like you said, would have absolutely blown their mind and would have scared them to death. I think with the dicecine glasses is, so we see on a wavelength, and trying to get this is, our human eyes can only see between, like, let's say a scale here and a scale here. Well, we know that light, we talk about infrared or whatnot. We know that light exists, and animals can see it. I believe Bigfoot, Nephilim can see it, all that stuff, and we can pick it up with infrared cameras. But we know that with our human eyes, it's just black. It ain't there. A good example is, if you've got a pair of polarized glasses, take them, look at your computer, and rotate them sideways. Your computer screen will turn black. Well, we know that the screen's there, but you can't see it. Same concept with these entities. What if there was a pair of glasses that could give you a filter, let's say, or a screen to where you could see these outside ranges of of the light spectrum. Well, you'd see a lot of crazy things. What's really there? Maybe the world that is unseen to us. It, I, who knows? But I do believe, I genuinely do believe most of the things, most of the cloaking technology, most of everything cloaks in an either infrared spectrum or the infrared blue, just the other side of that, where it pops out of that spectrum of light that we can't see. But I do believe that there are people just like we talked about with other things. They do have the ability to, because that's just, again, in their genetics, they can see that little bit extra. And those people are what we call crazy because we can't see it, but they can.
Well, I can have a little testimony. I can contest to that because I have to have special glasses, and I know all about having vision issues and seeing things that just don't make sense when it comes to geometric shapes and everything. So yeah. So, when you have to have calibration and different prisms in your glasses, it can mess you up real quick. And that's a small scale. From what we're talking about on a military project, that's a small scale. So I can only imagine these men must have been in complete, it must have been eradicated torment. It must have been like being in hell. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my stepdad actually sent me this, and here's a good biblical reference to that. It is, 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 17, 18, and 19. Elijah prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and beheld, a mountain was full of horses, chariots, and fire round about Elisha. And when he came down, he prayed to the Lord and said, smite the people. I pray thee, with blindness, and he smote them and all that. So, this talks directly about what we're talking about now, what you were talking about in the Vietnam. It's like, they're there. We just can't see them with our human eyes. But, these things are there. It's just wild to me. But it's funny how we can find all these things. People say that the Bible's not a living book. It definitely is. It's just there's a reference just for about everything paranormal in there. It's wild to me. I love it.
And people seem to just kind of be displaced in their mind and like just shrug it off that there's no spiritual application. Well, speaking of spiritual application, I got 2 Thessalonians up here, 2:9. Even him who coming is after the working of Satan with all the powers and signs and lying wonders. If you think about it, we're talking about the same thing when it comes to this veil and this whatever's going on in our world. It's a supernatural thing. You mentioned Mark 5 earlier about the torment of the man with the legion in him. Yes. Legion can be up to 1,000 entities, right? This guy was getting ready to break bad and pull his chains off and everything. There's nobody that can restrain him. And I want to throw this out here. There could have been the worst individual human that ever walked this earth on that mountain. But guess what? Jesus would have completely bypassed all those because guess what? They're the image of God. And those pigs, that's symbolic because the pigs are dirty swine, man. So you had to cast them into the pigs, and let's just say I'm not a pork eater. I don't eat pork, but what I'm getting at, like he pushed them into the swine, and then those bodies, those ancient entities, these giants, these Nephilim, they was wanting that body again to feel their fingers, their anatomy, and they jumped in those pigs and they're squealing, like, hey man, what's going on? These pigs couldn't handle it. The brain activity couldn't handle it, and they just squealed right off into oblivion and died off the mountain. And Jesus knew that. It's just it's so interesting what he was doing, man, and it just baffles the mind, dude. And I just want to share that with you. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, man. I'm right there with you. I think it's pretty amazing how just kind of, again, the Bible kind of confirms multiple things like that. It's wild to me.
Well, in a segue to this other scripture, you have Ephesians 6, verse 12. One of my favorite verses, by the way. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. A lot of people don't know this, but there's dominions. There's like angel guarded territories, right? Like you have gateway spiritual applications where they're resonating the ground. The molecular structure changes when these guys show up. And see, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying earlier. Could it be a what-if moment here on Visual Disturbance that these hair follicles are changing because the daddies of old, the sons of God, taught man how to manipulate manipulate and change themselves, and they gave them ability. You mentioned Enoch with the Mount Hermon, right? The 200 Watchers took the oath on the top of the mountain and spent all this time to teach man different things, metallurgy, makeup for women, different types, alchemy, witchcraft, all these different things, and diabolical to change the way, the perception of consciousness of mankind. And it wasn't. We're like born of the earth, man. It's like we were the seed, dude, and we're supposed to be tillers of the ground and be like submitting to the one and only, and be cheerful and loving the one Almighty. I mean, all these little things are minions, dude. Like the spiritual applications are just astounding to me. Like this stuff is just abundantly pouring out everywhere. And what's your take on Ephesians? What's your take here?
Well, my take on Ephesians, that's one of the verses that, I live by when it comes to all this stuff is knowing that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Like it's not flesh and blood. I don't know how to put it any plainer than the Lord does, there. It's you have to realize that this stuff exists, that there is a unseen paranormal realm, and I think a lot of Christians need to wake up to that the world isn't this scientific little physical box, and that you need to realize that you're in a spiritual battle. You are in spiritual warfare, and right now you see things, and these spirits are pretty territorial. I mean, you look in Daniel how he fasted, and it talks about the prince of Persia, or the spirit of the prince of Persia, came up against Michael. And here's the crazy part: Michael was fighting with them for I think 20 something days, and he had to call for help, by the way. So I'm not saying that these creatures or these spirits are greater than God or God's angels, but I'm saying they have a heck of a lot of power, and they are not to be underestimated or messed with. You don't mess with these things. And people all around right now, I'm seeing just a ton of people messing around with things they have no clue about, and they're opening themselves up to just crazy things. And I've talked about that. It's not good, and it's being pushed in the mainstream media. And it's wild. My kid, we don't even have YouTube on the TVs because it's being pushed to the kids, and I have threatened to put my fist to the TV when I see it. And we're talking 4 or 5 year olds. They're having books of witchcraft and craziness like that. And so all this stuff is being pushed on kids, on these people. And I think we as a church, we need to wake up to it, and we need to actually read our Bibles, number one, and know that verse in Ephesians, we wrestle not with flesh and blood.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a spin here, and I'm going to, because we've been doing a little what ifs and like a hypotheticals, but there's a lot of things we touched on base here that are legitimately hard concrete evidence that these things are not what they say they are, right? So if you see on the screen here, so we have the Cherokee, it's the Cherokee literally mythology. But in the Cherokee world, the Aboriginal people located in the states of Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. No joke. You remember what happened in Hurricane Helena? The alien legends of Cherokee mention the Nunnehi. The Nunnehi beings, I've been on this for about a year or so now. These strange humanoid creatures with abilities such as teleportation and invisibility at will. Legends say they fought alongside the Cherokee during the battles of the locals and the European invaders. Let me ask you this. These things are known to be shapeshifters. They're known to be shapeshifters of creatures, hairy men. People have accounts of turn into spirit guides, turn into a female, turn into a male, all these different things. And this is literally homeland, right? You're talking about the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, not too far from your area, and these underground realms of the Cherokee, literally to this day, supposedly in Tennessee and North Carolina are more of a, I guess they're more prominently in that area, and parts of Kentucky, and here we are talking. And they are oftenly portrayed as benevolent guardians or shapeshifters or protectors of the Cherokee people. So that's what I'm saying. So thought about here's my thought process. Okay, Travis, what if, when you look at the Cherokee traditions and everything, what if these entities, what if these things, these Nunnehi, what if they're, let's just say, shifting into Bigfoot? What if that's what it is? What if that's what it is? And that's so easy. That's so easy. They're resonating and following the Native American bloodline. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman, but it doesn't say Native American. You feel me? So,
Yeah.
so a little bit conspiracy here and going down the rabbit hole. But when I think about that, and then here's real quick, and I'll give you your take on it. Nunnehi translates to the people who live anywhere or those who live forever. So, you talking about earlier about immortality. You're talking about the sons of God made the daughters of men. You're talking about Enoch, where the giants of old died and become embodied spirits that roam the earth, never going to hell or heaven. The Nunnehi fits the bill about suspiciousness of what they could be doing interdimensionally and everything. I mean, this is a huge. Not many people are talking about this. And what could it be? Is it something hidden in the woods and where they harbor, where they live everywhere? What do you think about this, Travis? It's crazy, man.
Man, you really introduced me to the Nunnehi when we had talked a few days ago, and I haven't doing some more research, dude. I think you've hooked me, because all of where Dad's researched and the multiple people, by the way, multiple reputable people that have had crazy spiritual experiences where we're at, that totally makes 1,000% sense, man. We talk about the state of Tennessee. It's literally named after the Cherokee capital, Tanasi, T-A-N-A or T-A-N-A-S-I, I believe is how the Cherokee spell it. But that's what the state is named after. And we are, I'm 15 miles from it. By the way, you can go to the Cherokee capital, Tanasi. By the way, you can't dig there. They will not let you dig. You cannot look for anything. You can be there, you can hunt there, but you can't dig. Interesting. I found that very, very interesting. But man, when it comes to it, this is the Cherokee capital of the world, rather other than Oklahoma and the Trail of Tears, this area. And man, the theory of the Nunnehi or that mythology makes so much sense. And I also find it funny when I was doing some research on this. You did a few shows back, you did some AI stuff. I just think it's funny how AI never said anything bad about the Nunnehi. So I always found that just very, very, very interesting to me. But the fact that they shapeshift, the fact that they can go in and out, the fact that they can live anywhere, I think that's really, really wild to me. And it does fit a narrative of how the Nephilim, how all that were ran out, in my opinion, were ran out of Israel, were ran out of the Europeans, and then they crossed over to the Americas and did the same thing. Just my opinion on that.
Wow. So, this whole Nunnehi topic, like you said, AI was kind of leaning toward that they was helpful, right? So when you look this up and you really take a deep dive into this Nunnehi narrative and really dig deep into the topic matter, it's interesting. It says that they are typically invisible, right? So here's the thing. Like earlier we was talking about David Paldes. Forgive me, I butcher his name, Paldes.
I do too.
Yeah, it's a Southern thing. So he's missing 411, and there's these people popping in and out. All the stuff that he's done is top notch, right? The investigations is top notch. And so there's people vanishing. Their backpacks are going up the hill and everything. So what if it's a crew of these crew? What if it's a crew of the Nunnehi? They're just yes, we picked our prey. Let's do it like Predator. He's like the Predator movies. They're showing you what they're doing. They come to you as an angel of light, right? They can also
yes.
So you kind of feel where I'm going. So then they reveal themselves to aid or warn humanity. So then, but they're really keen on saying, hey, if you hurt Cherokee or if they're really big too, not to be. I think they're like a role of like if they catch you like hurting women, or something that level. It makes you wonder. And they don't do too well with that. They'll come at you with a rage. So it makes you
Right.
wonder. It makes you wonder, man. I mean, what's going
Man,
on? Where are we at? The Twilight Zone or what, man?
man,
Yeah.
I honestly think the world is the Twilight Zone, and to be, and if you want to go back to sleep, just watch the news and just go back to sleep. But if you want the real world, kind of like that movie. I love the movie The Matrix. It's like, what do you want, the red pill or the blue pill? Do you want the truth, or do you want soft peace? And there's a and for me, I want the truth. That's what I want. I want to handle. I can handle it. I think I can, at least. But you know, yeah, I just think that I always I always thought to myself, how in the world can people side with the devil? Like, how can they fall for this? And then I like really jumped into these, like, the what am I trying to say? The secret societies, the Masons, all that stuff. And here's what it like. They start teaching that, Lucifer, like Yahweh, like our God, is the bad God, and he just wanted to keep us down. And he just wanted to take and withhold this knowledge from us. And that Lucifer was just the bringer of light, the bringer of knowledge. That, if you, with all these secret societies, they seek light. That's what they want. They're the seekers of that. So they seek knowledge and all that. And who's the knowledge bringer? Who's the light bringer? Oh, it's a Lucifer or Prometheus, or whatever they call him. And he's the good one. And it's Yahweh that's the bad one. And that's how, in the end, that they're going to fight this out and all that. And I when that opened up to me, I'm like, oh my God, this is how they're going to be deceived. And this is how they are deceived, because they're liars. That's what they do. Their father is liars. There's nothing that can come out of them that is truth. They are liars. And I just find that fascinating, that they're like, oh, we're the good guys and all that. It was like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Speaking of the angels and the angels of light, there's a verse here that rings a bell to me. Job 26:5, dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. When you look at this up, the word dead means Raphaim. And you look at about the dead. So we're looking at the incursion after the flood. The Nephilim was the beginning, or before the flood, and then after the flood was the Raphaim. So you think about water, you think about these spirits, these stoichion, the elemental spirits, this whole correlation with it all coming together, and they've been manipulating time, and they've been manipulating man's brain, consciousness, everything, like changing distorting his path and getting him away from what he truly needs to be doing. And I wanted to throw this in here. So speaking of the Nunnehi one more time, you mentioned angels, okay? The seraphim have been, if you study those out, the seraphim are like tricksters, okay? So the seraphim, you got cherubim, the seraphim, so you have different classes of angels. The seraphim are categorized, you'll read about them, that they are tricksters. Well, in the Nunnehi folklore, Nunnehi can be tricksters, leading people astray if offended or testing their character. Think about that. I mean, good night. And then if you take the AI and the whole component of accelerating that, and if these things can do, so we're talking about quantum entanglement, and I remember hearing, like in 2017, where they uploaded an individual's consciousness and put it on a hard drive. So just think about it for a minute, folks. Is it true? Is it all just a big old conspiracy, just a psyop, just to gaslight us more and more as we go down the road? But dude, Travis, I'm thinking it's so spiritual. It's so spiritual,
Same.
but there's a physical aspect to it, but it's very minute compared to because we're talking about biologicals all the time. UFO narrative, biologicals. We got biologicals over here. We got biologicals in the toilet. We got biologicals over here in the crack and the crevice of the creek don't shine. I mean, it's insanity, right? They're like, well, we got top tier clearance generals over here executing the Project Gateway for Project Bluebeam. I mean, it's insanity, and people are catching on. People are getting the sniff test doesn't do good anymore. Okay, they're smelling too much sulfur. The sulfur is getting it's getting a little rank, and people's taste in their mouth is getting it's getting to a point to where we can't even we can't even believe what we're being told on a daily basis anymore. And it's just the sniff test. It stinks to high heaven, man. It stinks.
Man, one thing that Dad always said is believe nothing that you hear and only half of what you see. And I think that was attributed to Mark Twain. So it was going on back then, but especially now with the AI. Dude, you cannot believe anything that you see. Nothing. And that's what really blew Dad's mind before he passed. It was like, with all this, and that's kind of the frustrating part about going back to the start of the Bigfoot stuff, like a picture. Okay, you can show someone a picture, but with AI, who knows if it's real or not? Like there's going to come a time where you're not going to be able to believe your eyes. I definitely don't think you need to believe your eyes on a computer screen anymore. But what happens when that becomes holographic? And can you believe what you see outside of the computer screen? That's where it's coming. And I genuinely, that technology is there, and it's just not there within, millions of dollars right now. But when that technology becomes a couple $1,000s, you're going to see it more and more. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the AI, I'll always say this. You mentioned Prometheus earlier. Have you ever seen the movie Prometheus, the alien narrative and everything?
Yes.
The big
Yes.
head underneath the ground. Did you know that there's talk about this in the Hopi? I think it's the Hopi, and they talk about the ant people, and they used to claim that there was this statue that go under the ground. Same exact narrative. It's almost like these people had every bit of information to produce and direct these films. So they had these giant heads where it would speak your language, like whatever you was native to, it would speak and give you this like divine intelligence. Well, here's the deal: ants, well, they would be like the Greys, which in return, I talk about this a lot here on the channel. The Brazilian Indian tribes call it the Manaku Wabu, that takes your soul, that takes you to the inner earth, that takes you away from this world. Like they'll do things for you at the beginning, they'll trick you, then all of a sudden, poof, you're out of here. But they'll give you knowledge, information. It's the same old dance. Sons of God made with the daughters of men. They took wives as they chose, and it's the same deal. You can go through all Native American culture, even back in Arizona. The men would show up in a spiral like your daddy was mentioning in all of his videos, and all of a sudden a big 10-footer rolls up, starts dominating the land. Execution, here we come, and devouring the land and claiming it's folk. Oh yeah, this is a giant Viking or whatever it is. But it's the same thing we've talked about during this whole program. And I think it goes back to, speaking of a conspiracy, I've heard in the Nunnehi guard, like the guards, right? The hidden realms, I even heard that it correlates with Atlantean tech. And I've done many programs on the Atlantean tech, and supposedly the government knows this. And, this goes way back. This opens up a whole nother broadcast, and we don't have enough time to even go down that route. But here's the deal. Kentucky, Fort Campbell, Fort Campbell in Kentucky?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're claiming that there's Nunnehi-related experiences around that army base. So riddle that one, man. That might be that little part of Nunnehi that is representation of Kentucky, and we're the army base, in Tennessee, North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Those areas, Asheville, Kentucky, all those places that got flooded with the lithium mines. Travis, dude, they are all. It was done, dude. I'm not.
Don't get me started on that.
I'm gonna watch what I say, but I swear up and down. I hate to say I don't like to swear, but the thing is, it's a thing, dude. They're going for it. And then Asheville was a huge area for Nunnehi, so this was done on a spiritual level, and they changed it. It's spiritually done. Yeah.
How man, I am right there with you, because I remember. I remember like preparing for it, like, hey man, like this thing, like, have you ever heard, by the way, of a daggum hurricane rolling up and being a category 3 by the time it gets Knoxville, Tennessee? Like, we're talking crazy inland, right up the Appalachian Mountains. Like, it's never heard of anything like that at all. And there were some miracles that happened. I live here in East Tennessee. One of the miracles was it missed Knoxville, because if it hit Knoxville and there was a few dams break, I would be underwater, and I'm not kidding. We were this close. Those poor people up there, like, the government has really left them to dry, and it is a land grab of epic proportion. They're going to let those folks kind of, they're going to let something happen to them where their land's not going to be worth anything, and I think they're going to come up. Somebody's going to come up and buy it. Like, that's going to happen, I believe. Doesn't matter what administration is in. And then another thing is all that land is now toxic, because you have all those places where that nuclear or whatever waste was held by those places. They would mine and stuff, and the government would come in, buy those old mines, and basically throw that stuff in there underneath the mountains. Well, when all these streams come down, and now you've got who knows what type of material mixed with mud, mixed with, I hate to say it, deceased people, tons of deceased people, and all that area is still just such a toxic place. And bless those people up in the Carolinas and Asheville and in northern Tennessee, northeastern Tennessee. Those people were absolutely just left for dead.
It was diabolical and sinister. That's the short, sweet version. I agree. You mentioned nuclear material. You mentioned you was talking about the land being desolate, so to speak. Well, guess what? It wouldn't be desolate for an entity like the Nunnehi we're talking about today. They could come and go. So here's the deal. So you remember the drones and everything? They said they were searching for nuclear material. I'm just going to go down the rabbit hole, folks. SpaceX, or not SpaceX, but all these secret Space Force programs, they're looking for nuclear signatures because these entities are radiating some type of nuclear signature. That's just my take. That's just my 2 cents. Yes, it's speculative. It's not really, there's no clean-cut evidence on it, but I promise you that's what's going on, because these sites are still, like Fukushima, all these places are still active. And it's to get the public away. Think about it. It's to get the public away. And look, if they have these interdimensional behind the veil creatures, these entities, they have full reign to go around, do whatever. And then once upon a time, and the time of whatever 1,000 years, 100 years from now, you can go back and set up shop again. They'll let the humans come back and build their little observatories or industrial stance or whatever it is, and build a brick and mortar, put a restaurant on the top tip of it. I don't know, but it's just, that's where we're at. It's these loops, it's just all this clutter. And these powers that be, these principalities are wicked. They're demonically charging spots, and I think that's what's going on right now. And speaking of, because I've went too long, and I hope I didn't take. I want you to talk about your experience. You talked about Dogman. I think you said you had experience with that. Is there anything that you want to? I want to really dive back into your work of your dad, and I want to hear your personal testimony. If you've ever seen a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, or a little man, that little green man that runs around with gray eyeballs. I don't know. Just tell the audience what you've seen or your own testimony. You have the floor. I won't interrupt you. Go for it.
So I have been blessed, and I have not seen or had any experiences with any of this stuff. So I want to say that very clearly. I'm very blessed to have not. Dad has had tons of experiences, and you asked about the Dogman. He had an experience with them that really woke him up to, oh man, there's more than just Bigfoot out here. He saw one jump up on a tree and turn his head and look at him. The way he puts it is I love my dad with all my heart. He was old school. He was a pew pew person, and he never carried around in the chamber. And so this thing jumps up on a tree, and he's like looking at it, like he's freaking out. And the way he says it, he's like, I'm going through my training. It's like, oh, okay, I gotta do this. So he racks the slide on the pew pew, and it, you know, God bless dad. Dad was really poor at the time. He only had like a high point, and this thing just went ka-cling, and as soon as it goes ka-cling, that dog man that's up on this tree looks at him like this, and he's got that, and he said that that was the coldest, blackest, spiritless eyes that he's ever seen. And he backed out, and it scared him. It scared him. It scared him. It scared him to this day. And the other thing is that I mean, that's his face to face interaction with a dog man. The other one is he caught a dog man on his back trail cam. That's really wild to see. And it's standing about 6-7 foot tall. It's poking its nose through the trees. It's got some little entity on it. Like it is absolutely just wild. But it all started with dad. It all started with a kid experience. Dad always talked about he had nightmares before 2008 about these two, like he didn't know what to call them, like monkeys, orangutans, demons that came up and pressed their nose against the glass door. Like my mother told me about this dad's nightmares before he figured it out. And dad had this experience where he was doing some whoops while he was fishing off where his research area is, off the Tennessee River, and he had an experience where he believes a Bigfoot came and smashed through, and he's like making noises and all that, and he's like, what was that? I got to go in there and check it out. And then that just kind of opened everything up and explained what dad saw, that he saw two juvenile Bigfoot when he was a kid. So I guess the thing is maybe they chose him out for some reason. I'm not sure, but I have not had experiences, thank God. I've honestly prayed them away, and I believe that works. I believe searching for them and going out and seeking them earnestly gives them permission to seek you, and they can come home with you. They will find where you live, and you don't want these creatures following you home. I've got kids. That's one of the reasons why I don't go searching for them. Earnestly, I know what they are. I'll still go hunting. I'll still go enjoy the woods, but I'm not going to search for these things. My goal right now is to carry on my dad's legacy, and the legacy is making people aware of these things. Like, if you've had an experience, you're not alone. You're not crazy. What you saw, you saw. And we try to, at the Sasquatch Awareness Project, we really try to, talk about what you saw, what it is, and relate it back to the Bible, and give you answers to those questions. And the best way we know how. We don't have all the answers, but we do our absolute best. And I think dad did a great job with his research. I thought, a lot of people love dad, and I'm blessed just to be able to call him dad. Was he perfect? Heck no. Am I perfect? Heck no. Am I going to get it wrong? Absolutely. So, is what I say the gospel? No. But I'm going to sit here and, I'm doing my best with it, and we're going to try to figure some things out together. That's all I'm asking, and all I'm wanting to do.
Well, awesome. I wasn't going to interrupt you, man. I was just going to let you go for another hour. Yeah, but
No, man.
yeah. So let me ask you a question real quick. So, what do you think? Did your dad have any Native American in him?
Man, that was the word. So I know we have a lot of Native American in our on my mother's side. I don't know about my father's side. I do believe so, but we just don't rightly know. I can't give you a good answer. I do know that I do know that there is my grandma, ugh, and I hate to say this, I do know that my great grandparents, not my grandparents, but my great grandparents did dabble in the Freemasonry stuff and all that. So I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't know. I feel like there's a big component to that too.
Interesting. Interesting. You know, and one other question: do you have German bloodline or anything like that?
I know I have English and some German. Yes, I know it's mostly English and Irish, and then I have Balkan. A lot of Balkan in me, like a lot of like Easter or yeah, excuse me, Western European, not Eastern European, but Western European in me as well.
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know what that means, but that's what I have in me.
Yeah.
My mom can tell you all about it. Like, but me, I guess I'm a Heinz 57.
Heinz 57. That's great. I appreciate that, Travis, man. I appreciate you coming on, but I really want to, if you have a few more moments, I really want to tell the audience, like what, you said you was going to maybe, well, not a maybe, but you said you was going to continue on your daddy's legacy. Are you going to, which route are you taking? Are you going to take it to, are we going to still study Bigfoot and go out in the woods? That's probably, you're not going to be, I know your dad talked about practicing mind speak, these different things, and you just told everybody that there's issues with things following you back home. You don't want that to come to your family, etc. And you just don't want that stuff following you around at work or in your vehicle or whatever. I mean, this is some serious stuff, and especially what your dad went through. Just everything, right? All the accounts, all the evidence that he has on tape, it's astounding to me. So,
Yeah.
what direction are you taking the Sasquatch Awareness Project, and then you have your own T Carp channel? What do you
Yeah.
what do you plan to do with all that in the future?
So the way I want to do this is with the Sasquatch Awareness Project. I want to finish up. We're going to finish up reading The Truth Denied. So we're going to go chapter by chapter, kind of in a audiobook format. And then I actually want to do some lives and talk about it. So like we'll do my goal is to do a weekly reading of the chapter. Then we sit and really live and talk, and we have like an audience discussion of what we read, what's going on, like what are the thoughts here. We're going to finish up that Truth Denied, which really dives deep into the DNA study. And then we're going to dive deep into the Nephilim among us, which is what, the DNA of the Truth Denied, points to, that the Bigfoot are Nephilim. And then after that, then we're going to go out and we're going to discuss and go through some more tapes that Dad has. We're going to go out to some places. Again, we're not going to look for these things, but we're going to talk about, if you see X, this is what this is. If you see Y, this is what this is. And then, my goal is to talk to other people, talk and have those experiences. Again, the more people in this realm, the better. A lot of people get really like, oh, this is my little box. Don't get in my little box. We're trying to make people aware. So make channels, love it. I'm all about new people getting into this, talking about it, starting their own podcast, getting those experiences out there. Do it. Like, raise the awareness is what I want. And then with the T-Carp channel, man, I am into prepping. I'm into the pew-pews. I'm into knives. I'm into bushcraft. And I'm really into the realm of this world that we know, this little sliver of time of economic success. We are not going to have that for long. And I really want to get down to those skills again, to where if the lights go out, we're good. And that's actually one of my main goals, is to be extremely knowledgeable about that, and then to bring you guys, whether it be products, knowledge, adventures, what to do. That is my main goal with that channel. It has always been the self-reliance, which I know is oxymoronic. Like we rely on the Lord, but being as self-reliant, and how do I put this? Not not neutered. I believe we as a human beings, especially in this society, we're so babied when it comes to technology. And I really like my oven. You know, you can just turn the knob and it gets hot. You know, our 100 years ago, that was unheard of. You had to make a fire. Now you watch a TV show and they give people literal matches and they can't start a fire. You know, we're just so suppressed. You know, that the ancient knowledge of just how to even live is taken away from us. And I just only think that sets up this society for failure. And I want to make people aware of that old knowledge again, if that makes sense.
And I'd agree with you. I remember back in the day, you know, you go to school and you would pick up a trade, you know, any kind of wood carving, carpenting work, or anything, and you would pick up these skills, and they don't teach that anymore. It's just really
No,
strange. Things are not getting taught anymore. It's more on just a touch screen and, you know, enter the matrix you go, and you don't cognitively pick it up. You can't replicate what you're doing. You only can do it on a computer screen. So it's really scary. Real quick, I have another question for you. I'm kind of interviewing you now. How about that, Travis? I'm interviewing you right now. So,
it's all good.
what's keeping you from? Because I know this is a huge question. I hope I'm not stepping on your toes.
No.
What's keeping you from expanding your dad's research on the DNA that he was doing? What can we do to continue that research? Are you going to continue that and pick up the reins and take that to another level? Is there anything else you can do with it, or is it just all kind of settled?
It's all settled. So here's the problem with the DNA stuff is money and it's settled. So when it comes to DNA, it's like you have to have DNA samples. And there were tons of DNA samples that were sent in to Dr. Ketchum. And you have to have money to have those samples tested. Well, you can sort of have some stuff done, but it's all going to come back the same. It's all going to come back. Mitochondrial DNA is going to be a human, and then the nuclear DNA is going to be unknown. And to me, the DNA is settled. It is absolutely settled. People won't believe unless there's a body. So the mainstream won't believe unless there's a body. And by the way, if you ever get a body, I think people will come with 3 letters on their on the back of their jackets, and they will come get you and the body. So I just don't think that. I don't think that there's actually ever going to be mainstream acceptance of it, but that's the reason why. Like the DNA evidence has already been done. I don't think I can do any better job of it. I don't have the money or the means to do all the testing that they did. That study honestly is incredible. The time, the money, and the effort went into it just for it to be absolutely just destroyed and tear apart. It's wild to me.
So what you're saying, Travis, if you're down the Smoky Mountains, you're out there in Gatlinburg, and you driving down the road, you hit Harry and the Hendersons. You remember that movie back in the day? You throw Harry up on there with zip ties, and you're like this. I think there's an old song or something, and holler at me. I think it was something like, if you hear the good old boys coming, holler at me if you need something done. We have to call the redneck buddies out of the woodwork, and we all have to overdo the black as far as the. Well, there's some kind of sound system. What's going on there in the background? Hello out there. But yeah, that was kind of interesting. But what would that do? Like, if you had the specimen, 3-letter agencies coming. I mean, look, at the beginning of the program, we talked about phantom characters, a phantom group. They're censoring this stuff out, man. They would automatically know that you hit Harry the Henderson on the road, and all of a sudden it'd be chaos for your life, dude. It would go in protective custody and everything.
Yeah.
It would be chaos. This is why they don't let you. This is why they don't let you do anything. This is why there's no body, because the Smithsonian and all these black ops projects, they're doing it. They're harboring these bodies. It's kind of interesting. Forgive me for scoffing here, but there'd be a gentleman that just passed away that wore a white robe, but they'll put him in a plexiglass box and worship him. But you can't, if you daggone near get a Bigfoot, you're gonna have to. Oh yeah, it's time to come home, baby. You're gonna be in Guantanamo Bay, baby. You know, you don't be touching
No,
Harry.
buddy.
You know what I'm saying?
I,
That's where
oh,
we're at.
absolutely.
The cognitive dissonance is out the door, and it's a power trip. It's a supernatural power trip. So what we're
Correct.
talking about tonight is just stunning, man. So all your dad's research, your continuation on what you wanted to do with the Sasquatch Awareness Project, the T-Carp, dude, go for it, man. And I remember whenever I talked to your dad to continue on the legacy, wouldn't that be just super thrilling, man? Like you'll be 60 years old one day, look back and be like, man, you know, we was interdimensionally dodging all these spiritual applications, and man, Dad, I did it, man. I did it, you know, and here we go. We got DNA. We got extra DNA now. I found something in 2030, you know what I'm saying, or 2050, you know what I mean? And just let, you know, go when God says do something, man, just roll with it, man, and have a good time. Just let, you know, it'd be great, dude. It'd be great if you continue on. You've been doing it. You've been doing it. I know
So
I know he'd be very proud of you.
that means the world to me. I know I've got the support of the great thing is I have the support of my family. I've got the support of, you know, my mom, like all that, and I have support of my friends. Like you know, there were people that scoffed. You know, when Dad first did this, I have a really good friend that he laughed at it when Dad first started, and then, you know, Dad passed away, and we were talking. He's a very major friend in my life, and he says, Travis, I don't know if you can't not do this. Like there are so many people that are touched by this, and you know, so many people when Dad passed prayed for me and my wife. You know, for those people who don't believe in prayer, like we physically felt the prayers of people. You know, when it talks about a peace that goes beyond all understanding, it absolutely is. Now, am I saying that I don't have bad times? I don't have a bad couple months. My goodness, the last 2 months, if you would have, you know, had a little camera in here, seen me go crazy. But you know, I almost just can't not do it. Like I can't let this gift that Dad and the Lord gave me just go to waste. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to make money with this. I'm not trying to do anything like that. You know, if I do get a little cheese, hey, I appreciate that. But the main goal is just to get people aware and to continue on Dad's legacy. And I'm just been so blessed to have the opportunity to. You know, a lot of people are like, again, like, oh, your dad was this, your dad was that. He was awesome. He was a pioneer. Man, he was just my dad, and I'm pretty blessed to be able to say he was just my dad.
Man, just awesome words, man. I don't even know if I can end the show, man, after that. You know what I'm saying? So, is there anything else that you would like to talk about tonight? Because you have full reign to speak more, because I feel like I might have overstepped and talked too much because we had so much to talk about and converse on. But if you're more than welcome, if you feel like you got a little bit left in the tank and got some, 2 or 3 ounces of coffee left in your cup, you're more than welcome to speak for as long as you want. And I appreciate you sharing all these testimonies and your stories, because I think it's just really interesting. And, you know, I think it's really cool that we're crossing paths. You know, I crossed paths with your dad once upon a time, and here we are. And it's an honor, my friend. And I'm so super thankful that you came on here tonight on the Visual Disturbance channel. And what an honor it is, my friend, to talk about Sasquatch. And I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Will you come back on? Will you come back on?
Of course.
Will you come back? Okay.
Of course.
Well,
I would love it. I would love to jump in on any of this topic, because you got to remember, this is the stuff that you guys talk about. I love it. I love it. So absolutely. And you know, the one of the final things I want to talk about is, you know, you and I talked off air about, you know, our lives and stuff like that. And I just think it's really wild that how God brings, you know, God and the Holy Spirit just pushes us all toward the same thing. God brought me into your life and other people's lives. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in divine appointments. And I just think that it's amazing how God brings all of this together. And I do want to end something on this for those that don't believe in the Holy Spirit and coincidences. I want to show you this, and I want to tell you this quick story. And actually had one of my buddies text me. He's not listening to this. He doesn't know I do this, but he lost his father today. And pray for my buddy Brian. And but what I want to say is when I was going through Dad's stuff, I was cleaning out his house. He had this Bible, and this is his Bible, and I remember this Bible. I remember Dad reading it and whatnot. Again, Dad wasn't perfect, but he sure tried. And it was open, and it was open to this verse. It was open to Revelation chapter 21, and he had a verse circled, and the verse was chapter 4. And the verse says, "And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." And that was exactly what I feel like I needed to see. And I don't think, I'm not saying Dad was talking to me from beyond the grave or anything like that, but I think the Holy Spirit was leading him to circle that verse, to leave that open for me. And I like I said, I don't believe in coincidences. I'm a Christian if you if I haven't said it. And I would just say that all of these things that we talk about with visual disturbance and and all those things, they ground whatever you find in the truth of the word. That's my advice to you. And if any of these entities start talking to you saying this or that, go back to what the word says. Go back to what that says. And does it line up with that? And if it does, okay. But if it doesn't, it's bullcrap. It's bullcrap. So that's my thoughts on that. And just always, always, always be grounded in the word. And you'll know more about paranormal stuff than just about anybody from the Bible.
Well said. Well said there, Travis. And we want to thank you again for being on here. It's an honor, and thank you. I'm really thankful that I reached out to you on the Sasquatch living amongst us in the shadows, man. It's
an honor to be here. Let me make sure that I say that it's an honor to be here. That honor is all mine.
It's a privilege, man. I'm so thankful. It's a privilege of mine too. So we're on the same page. I'm so honored to have you on, and I'm so glad you're going to come back on. It's going to be super thrilling for round 2. I don't know. We might not talk about Sasquatch, but we'll talk about something else. Maybe gateways and portals. How about that?
Ooh, I like that.
So to find Travis and his channels at T-Carp, it's I think it's at T-Carp 1616. It's at the description box, and then you also have the Sasquatch Awareness Project link in the description below. So tune in, check his stuff out. Travis is trying his hardest to get that thing running and keep the Sasquatch Awareness Program going. Check out everything out there and share it all out. And Travis, it was an honor, my friend, and I'm so thankful that we crossed paths and we had that southern twang. I got more of a country. I don't know, man. It's like I'm Eastern Kentucky.
You got that Kentucky.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You got that wild Eastern Kentucky in you. It's all right.
It's all right. Listen, I'm trying to hold back. Actually, I'm trying to hold back.
I love it.
Yeah, I can be like, man, you want to get country fight? Yeah. I can go real bad Eastern. Okay.
Oh, I understand that.
Hillbilly talk.
Yes, so that's my boy right there.
I'm trying super hard to hold back on this broadcast. Okay. So, anyways, if you have a Sasquatch or AKA Bigfoot, get her done.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have one of them stories you want to tell us, you just email it right up there, buddy.
10-4, good buddy. but anyways, Travis, it's been an honor, man, a privilege to be on here with you, man. I'm so thankful. And two Southern boys come together here and talking about the word, plus talking about Sasquatch and the Bigfoot among us. And is there any last words that you'd have to say? And I'll give you the floor, and then we'll conclude the broadcast here. We can go from there.
Yeah, man. Just all I can say, all I want to ever say is there's only one way to heaven. You know, Jesus is the only way. Believe in Him. You don't have to do anything other than that. That's thief on the cross. He couldn't do anything. All he asked is that Jesus remember him, and he was with them that day in paradise. It's not hard. It's stupid easy. Do it.
That was well said too, man. Country slang, a little country slang with it, and I think everybody can articulate what you just said. And thank you so much. And we're going to end things up here, everybody, and thank you all for being here with me this evening here on the Visual Disturbance channel. Like I said at the beginning of the program, it's been a little while since we went live here, so we're really thankful to be part of this with Brother Travis here. So it's an honor, and I can't say enough on here. And real quick before we conclude the program, I'd like to hit everything up. If y'all get an opportunity to follow me on X, it's a dark world, like I said earlier in the program. I've been trying to build that platform out. We do a lot of different things on there, and I'm trying to get the gospel, get Bigfoot information, different cryptid creature information out, and everything like that on the X of Visual Disturbance. So check it out, Visual Disturbed. And the question is, I'll leave everybody alone after this, but comment below after this video airs and everything, and then after you rewatch it. Do you believe in Bigfoot? I want to hear your comments. I want to hear where you're from, if wherever walk of life you are. I don't care if it's Egypt. I don't care if you go around in Cairo and you see Bigfoot walk around in the front of the Giza pyramid and lighting up the let's just say the halls of Amity underneath the pyramid. And I'm just joking there, but that's probably something that's going to happen here in 2026. So just if you have something like that, have information, Australia, Denmark, wherever you are from, let me know. Tasmanian, it would be really cool. And we can do another big show later on into the following quarterly of the year. And Travis, I do have something up my sleeve. I have a Google Earth imagery. I've only done it one time on Visual Disturbance, but I have a Google Earth a surprise for everybody. I can trace back to 2018 of like everything from the 1899 to 2018, all these Bigfoot occurrences with Google Earth. I have an algorithm, so we should do that next time because I love doing Google Earth
let's
imagery.
go. Yes.
Yeah. So that would be super cool that we could do it in the future together. But other than that, I want to thank everybody for attending with us here on Visual Disturbance. Like I said, check us out on ConspiracyCon because you'll get to see us. I'm trying to get him there. I'm trying to get the Sasquatch awareness program there. ConspiracyCon, August 22nd, 23rd. Travis will be there. I'm going to have to make sure of it. I'm just kidding.
No,
he hasn't said yes. He hasn't said it yet, but I mean, it's in a figurative sense. He said it, and I'm going to try to get him there if we can. So
we're talking to the wife. We're talking to the wife. I've still got the boss woman. You know how that goes.
But anyways, I hope to see you there, and I hope that everybody's that I got to see in person. I've seen a lot of different people on Visual Disturbance, their screen names, but it'd be really cool to see all the people out here that watch the Visual Disturbance channel. So check it out, conspiracycon.com, Facebook, and all that. If you'd like to hit that up and follow us on Facebook page of ConspiracyCon, we really would appreciate it. And it's always an honor to come on here on Visual Disturbance channel. But I think we're going to conclude. We went a little long here, 2-hour program, Travis, 2-hour program, my friend. And as time is...
I've still got 2 hours in me, but we got to let the people go to bed.
Yeah, let the people go to bed. So we want to thank everybody for being here, and I appreciate you being part of Visual Disturbance. Subscribe, hit that like button, share this thing out. Welcome to the Visual Disturbance community. And until next time, we will see you on the next one. And like my brother David says, high five and good night, everybody. But I'm going to be like this. I'm going to say, what did I say at the beginning of the program? Oh, Bigfoot. What did I say? I said it was all off the cuff. I started singing a country song that I just made up. I think I said, oh, Bigfoot, something like ancient tech, wizardry. Yeah, something like that. So, I'm not going to conclude with that. But, stay away from wizardry or necromancy or anything to that level. Keep it real. And until next time, Visual Disturbance, I'm out of here. See you on the next one.
one that can see.